Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Guys, Pixar just made a movie about beavers, my favorite animal ever, and just watched it, and I think it's pretty good. And let's talk about it. So basically, even though the trailer says that it's not, this is Disney Pixar's version of Avatar, where this girl, she really loves animals. She goes into a robot beaver and then goes into this ecosystem and tries to save it from this evil mayor who is going to build a freeway in the middle of their ecosystem and destroy everything. And I think the first thing that comes to mind is this movie is very much not Pixar. Like with Pixar, we're used to these big emotional movies that resonate super well and cut to some deep core of our humanity and really gets you in the feels, maybe makes you cry a couple of times. And Hoppers is not that, and I don't think it's trying to be that, and it feels very different. I think Hopper's strength is that it's just like goofy, quirky, weird, funny, clever. It has a few twists and turns that are just like laugh out loud, hilarious, and absurd and crazy. For better or for worse, this movie keeps you guessing, and it is just like wild. It is a roller coaster ride from beginning to end. And I gotta give it its props. It's super fun, very creative, and the creativity is not really in what you think from the premise of the movie. You might think that like the creativity comes from, oh, we're gonna hop human brains into animal brains and kind of have that experience. But this movie's not really about hopping back and forth. Like, we hop basically one time and we're there in the animal world for most of the movie. And I think for me, the most intrigue in the world building is just being in this really weird animal kingdom kind of world. Like, it's very different from Zootopia, this movie that we just had come out. Like, in Zootopia, there's a whole thing about predators and prey, and like that is a huge part of the conflict in the social society that they have. But in Hoppers, they have this kind of culture where it's like, oh, if you're hungry, you eat. And if someone catches you, then it's like, I give up. It works out. And there's like no animosity or fear or tension in that. And it creates kind of like a really weird, funny, goofy community and world that we get to explore. Like there's respective kings and queens of different animal species. And the world is just like fun to think about and fun to be in. It doesn't take itself very seriously. And it knows that it's pretty dumb and this stuff doesn't make sense, but it's endearing enough and it's also like fresh enough of a take to make it fun and enjoyable for the hour and 45 minutes that you're watching it. The animation is super good. It's like not the typical Pixar style, but I really enjoyed it. I think the anthropomorphized version of the animals, it was just really cute. There's a lot of good physical comedy in the way that like basically these like stuffed animal like creatures are just thrown around and running around and scrambling. And also I think just beavers are good animals in that. They're just like fat and plump and goofy. And obviously I had a fun time with this. Like beavers are my favorite animal. I love how they had like little things here and there with like beavers being keystone species. So of course they're going to be integral to the plot. And their like excrements smelling like vanilla and being goofy like that. Like little stuff about beavers was fun for me. One thing I didn't like, I'm gonna nitpick because of course, but beavers, usually they slap their tails to tell other people of danger. If there's some predator coming, they'll slap their tails on the water so that it makes a big sound so other beavers know like what to do. There was a little incorrect mistake there early on in the movie when a mom beaver and a little child beaver are swimming and they get scared. The child beaver ducks down first, and then the mom beaver is kind of already swimming away and then slaps the tail at the person that they're scared at. So, a little scientifically inaccurate. It would make more sense if the mom beaver slapped the tail first to like let everyone know in the area and then goes down. But whatever, like it's a kids movie. Whatever. We got fun, endearing characters in this movie too. Like King George is a standout. He's like this beaver king of the community who's super nice and positive and optimistic in every single way. And it cuts against the grain of kind of like, oh, like here's the leader of a seemingly nice community, and then boom, 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 turns out that he's evil, but like they never do that. He's just like a nice friend and a cool guy. And I really appreciated that, especially because like I feel like with Disney movies, we've had like these twist villains and things that like come out of nowhere and don't really make sense. And I'm happy that they just made like the beaver be a beaver and not be like some crazy antagonist at the end. But I think ultimately where this movie falls short is its thematics. Because sure, like we know that Disney Pixar can make fun movies and enjoyable movies, and that's what like everyone else is kind of doing. Like Illumination can do that, DreamWorks can do that. Sony Pictures has been doing a great job with animation. But Pixar usually makes its bread and butter on thematics, on emotion, on character arcs that really make sense and are good for little kids and for adults. And I feel like here in Hoppers, it was missing that a lot. In the beginning, early on, we meet the main character who's a young girl, Mabel. She really loves animals, but no one else kind of like understands her love for animals. And she's a little bit quirky, and so she's kind of alone. And in the beginning, we have this kind of conversation with her and her grandma about like, oh, like controlling your anger and letting go and like connecting to nature and realizing that you're a part of something bigger, and like that helps you release that anger. And I was like, okay, like this could be an interesting motif and theme throughout the movie. But then we get a bunch of different little aspects of character and character arcs, but none of them are really emphasized, and we kind of get cherry picked parts of all of them. Like we talk about loneliness, we talk about feeling like a failure, we talk about standing up and fighting for people who can't fight on their own. We're talking about unity and working together. We're talking about like optimism and choosing to believe that other people are good even if they're not. Like there's way too much that's going on, and like the biggest emotional moments of the film, there's not like a through line through every single one of them. We just hop from one to another. And so it just cheapens the impact of every single one. And honestly, like Mabel doesn't go through like a very clear, strong arc. Felt like they tried to do too much here. But something I did enjoy, and this is less of a thematic thing, this is just kind of like a creative direction that I enjoy, because typically you don't see this in a lot of Western movies now in Hollywood. But basically, both the animals and the humans were bad. Like in this classic Avatar story or whatever, usually it's like, oh, Jake Sully, he goes to the Avatar people are good and they're oppressed and they're weaker, and the humans are super bad because they're trying to destroy Pandora, and so humans bad, Avatar people good. It's very black and white. Not a lot of interesting conflicts going on there. Here they could have done the same thing. Animals good, humans bad, we hate politicians, we hate climate change, go environmentalists, that kind of thing. But it doesn't really go that way. They show both humans and animals being good and bad, and there's like a surprising amount of nuance in portrayals and characterizations for both animals and humans that I enjoyed. So I feel like props to the movie for that, at least. And even though I don't think this like movie lands all of the emotional beats that it wants to, I think it misses on most of them. There was one that was really good at the end, I think. One that like brought it full circle, but it wasn't really related to Mabel or our main characters. It was related to the community of animals that we've been spending time with for the last hour and a half. And so in some ways I was more moved by seeing our supporting characters get justice and fulfillment at the end than like our main two characters, which was kind of weird. But it did like put a smile on my face, I think. Okay, last thing about Hoppers. I have to talk about it because this movie is like just freaking bizarre and insane and weird and bonkers. And this stuff has to go into spoilers. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, go watch the movie. It's pretty good. It's a fun time. I would enjoy watching it again probably because it's light and breezy. Maybe not like the most deep, like gut-wrenching, gut-punching movie from Pixar, but I think it's probably in the solid like B minus range. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, go away. We're going to talk about some of the crazy stuff that happens in this movie. First, basically, Mabel and George are like in trouble and they call on the animal council. Basically, it's like the kings and queens of every different animal species. So we have insects, we have birds, we have amphibians, we have mammals, like all these things. And just the way that it's shown, it's like, it reminds me of Crude's A New Age. It's like very dumb and corny and goofy and over the top. But like, I was like, whoa, this feels like an Avengers Assemble moment. And like, it was just like fun and awesome. And then the next one, in the council meeting, the queen of the insects is like a butterfly, a monarch butterfly. And like, Mabel straight up kills her. Like as a beaver, just like high fives the insect in between her hands and just like straight kills her. Like that was one of the most shocking things. I was like, what is going on? We just killed the main character. That was hilarious to me. Like stuff like that, just like out of nowhere. You think you're like watching this like nice little Pixar movie and then like boom, like smack, you like kill one of like the main supporting characters. And then at some point later on in the movie, the whole council of animals are against Jerry, the human mayor, and Mabel wants to protect the human mayor because they're like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, like I hate that he is being a bad politician, but like I don't want to kill him. And so basically the council calls for an apex predator to kill Jerry. And this is when like stuff goes off the rails and makes no sense whatsoever. But basically a bunch of birds, like geese, like carry a freaking king shark out of the water, will fly it like the house and up. But instead of the balloons, you have birds. And instead of the house, you have a shark. And we have this car chase on a mountain where a car is driving and being chased by a flying shark. And at some point, the shark gets like chucked onto land and is just riding the back of the car that the human is in. And I think in the moment, like me personally, I just thought it was really funny and just like absurd and stupid. Obviously, like if you think about it, it's like, this doesn't make sense. Like what are the rules of this world? Who knows? But I thought it was like fun and engaging, I guess. And then later, one of the insects reverse hops and like goes into like a human and pretends to be the mayor. And I think this is kind of where like we get into like a different tone of the movie. Like the third act kind of goes a little bit more, I wouldn't say horror, but it's like more creepy and like like kind of crazy. And I don't know, it just like was not something that I was expecting and not something that I super liked, because we have this like pretty fun, wholesome, like nice vibes of like nature, and now we're kind of going into like, oh, like creepy scientific, like the lighting is super green and dark and gray. So I felt like the third act just kind of felt weird and just like thrown out into a totally different area. And like at the end, like the robot human has his face torn off, and so he has like the kind of Terminator face and like the human body. Um, and then it ends up being like a big fire that just like engulfs the entire forest, and it just like escalates crazily into like wild stupidity. And so like some of this stuff is just like crazy and dumb, and honestly, like I really appreciate Pixar for just kind of like doing it and like shooting the shot and going for it. They didn't play it safe, and I found that fun. Even though I didn't enjoy all of the creative choices that they made, I thought it was like fun to be taken on a ride where I didn't really know what was going to happen. Just a couple of last thoughts. Like the plot doesn't make so much sense. The way that we're thrown into like the difference between act one and act two, and like we get into the thrust of the movie, it's just like pretty haphazard and like rushed through. The way that we get from the end of the second act to the third act, like the act breaks are really clunky. They're not written well. It doesn't make a lot of sense the way that they culminate, but I think they set up things that are fun enough to watch that I don't really care. Like in the beginning, I'm good that they didn't have to like go through all of this monologuing and setup about like, oh, like this is how the hopper thing works and this is what we're like doing with it or whatever. We know that we're here for like the girl to become a beaver, but let's just get into that. So I think that was good. For the second to third act transition, I think it felt like too much of a tonal shift. And it did feel like in some ways like the reality and the rules of the world that we're working in, like we're just kind of thrown out the window. And that is like part of the fun of it, but also like it makes the last act not as compelling and interesting, and I'm not as invested in it because things like start to make no sense. But overall, like I found it really fun. I enjoyed the world. Like I wanted to be in that world. And I think like in some ways Disney really wants that, because obviously they're trying to push everything into merch and the experiences and Disneyland and the amusement parks, right? Like you want more of these things where like, oh, I want to go live at the Glade. I want to go live at the Super Lodge. This is like a good positive thing for Disney, I think, especially because I think projects like Elio and Turning Red and all of these other things, like they've been flopping recently. So far it's looking like the box office is doing pretty well, and some people have been calling for a sequel already. The way that it is set up and the way that it ends, I don't think like a sequel makes sense at all. Oh, also one thing that I forgot to say, the whole like grandma death thing and kept on using flashbacks of the grandma. Like I know like it's supposed to mean things and like whatever, but like it just wasn't set up well, because it's like we have a 3-minute scene in the beginning with the grandma, and as soon as the grandma shows up, like I know like, oh, she's dead, she's dying, like she's not gonna be here, she's gonna be motivation. And every single time we have like this emotional moment, like we flash back to like the grandma and like the grandma telling Mabel something, and it's like slightly related, but it doesn't really like hit super hard because it's not like directly related and it's not super connected to the actual story. So I felt like that was pretty weak. And I'm sure that if I nitpicked this more, like Hoppers would kind of fall down in the rankings, but I just enjoyed it so much. It was so much fun, and it was like a creative like escape that I think it was good. I would recommend it. I'd probably watch it again. But yeah, and overall, this was made for me. I freaking love beavers. And like, okay, honestly, Apple emoji, that's the best. Beavers, they're so cute, they're so fat. And if I got nothing out of this experience, if it was like terrible and bad or whatever, I got to see beavers do cute beavers things and like run and get slapped and like fall from the sky and do absolutely crazy things and look super cute while doing it. I'm not a furry, but I like beavers, and Hoppers was pretty good. So yeah, I don't know, give it a watch, I guess. But until next time, see ya.